For thousands of years, the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt have fascinated and mystified us. These intricate symbols, carved into stone, painted on temple walls, and preserved in tombs, are more than relics. They are echoes of a civilization that sought to communicate across time, preserving its understanding of the world in ways that would endure for millennia. Yet, despite centuries of study, their full meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. For nearly 2 centuries, modern Egyptology has built a framework of interpretation rooted in the tools of linguistics and archaeology. Scholars have viewed hieroglyphs as phonetic tools similar to letters or syllables used to record spoken language. They have been interpreted as static symbols, each assigned a fixed meaning tied to cultural conventions, and they have been assigned the context of ceremonial artifacts created primarily for religious or elite purposes. These approaches have led to the development of technically sophisticated methods, including speculative systems linking hieroglyphs to phonetics, attempts to reconstruct ancient pronunciations, and detailed catalogs of static definitions for individual glyphs. Comparative linguistics, computational analysis, and decades of painstaking work have yielded complex models of how hieroglyphs might have functioned. Yet for all this effort, these methods have failed to unlock the deeper purpose of hieroglyphs. They have provided no real insight into the worldview, wisdom, or lost knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. Instead, the hieroglyphic system has been reduced to a fragmented and often contradictory framework of phonetic guesses and rigid interpretations. This failure arises from a fundamental flaw in the traditional approach. It assumes that hieroglyphs functioned like modern writing systems. This assumption, rooted in our own notions of literacy and language, fails to account for the unique qualities of hieroglyphs. When we examine the system more closely, profound questions emerge. Why are hieroglyphs so often arranged in visually balanced, non-linear layouts, as though designed for the eye rather than the ear? How did they remain intelligible across centuries of linguistic evolution, long after the spoken language they supposedly encoded had changed? And why do their symbols seem so deeply grounded in the natural world, depicting birds, tools, and plants that anyone, literate or not, could recognize? These questions compel us to consider an alternative. What if hieroglyphs were never meant to be a record of speech? What if their purpose was far more ambitious, to create a universal language designed to transcend time, culture, and literacy, a system capable of communicating truths that are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago? Our journey begins with this radical idea. The Egyptians did not build their writing system to function as an extension of speech. Instead, they created a language of relationships, one that operates through recognizable symbols tied to the tangible world, derives meaning from the relationships between symbols rather than fixed definitions, encodes universal truths and natural principles, accessible to anyone willing to observe and engage. This is the framework we propose the Egyptians intended. A relational, universal system of meaning that reflects the interconnectedness of life itself. This intent, bold, elegant, and profoundly ambitious, would allow hieroglyphs to persist beyond the lifespan of a single language or culture. By grounding their writing in the visible and tangible, the Egyptians created a system that spoke not just to their contemporaries but to future generations. Their glyphs depict the world as they observed it. Birds, plants, tools, and actions, things that are as real and comprehensible today as they were thousands of years ago. The Egyptians, we believe, left us a gift, a language crafted to endure, to communicate directly through universally understood relationships, and to honor the natural order of existence. The time has come to see hieroglyphs as they were truly meant to be seen, not as static symbols to be deciphered, but as windows into a worldview that remains profoundly relevant. If the Egyptians intended hieroglyphs to transcend the boundaries of time, language, and literacy, how did they achieve this extraordinary vision? The answer has eluded treasure hunters and academics for millennia, and yet the answer we propose has been hidden in plain sight. Ancient legends of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, speak of the power of the name. The name was not just an identifier, but a vessel for truth, a distillation of purpose and essence. To know a name was to understand the force it represented, to hold the key to its power. The Egyptians believed that names carried within them the principles of creation, connection, and balance. And in the name Jehuti, the Egyptians left us a clue, a living model of how hieroglyphic communication works. The name of Thoth, Jehuti, is composed of just 4 glyphs: the ibis, the quail chick, the loaf of bread, and the reeds. At first glance, it seems a simple arrangement, yet within these 4 symbols lies the heart of the hieroglyphic system. These glyphs form 2 overlapping triads, a structure that demonstrates how meaning emerges not from isolated symbols, but from their relationships. It is, in effect, a primer, a lesson in how the Egyptians approached writing and meaning itself. Let us consider the name Jehuti more closely. The ibis, sacred to Thoth, represents wisdom, guidance, and the elder who provides. The quail chick symbolizes youth, dependency, and new beginnings. The loaf of bread signifies sustenance, nourishment, and provision. The reeds evoke growth, flourishing, and resilience. When viewed as a sequence, these glyphs reveal 2 triads. The first triad, ibis, quail chick, bread, describes a narrative of provision. The wise, symbolized by the ibis, care for the young, represented by the quail chick, offering sustenance or bread to ensure survival. The second triad, quail chick, bread, reeds, depicts the next stage. The young, nourished by sustenance, grow into maturity and strength, represented by the reeds. These overlapping triads tell a complete story. Wisdom sustains the young, and sustenance enables growth. This is not merely a description of a cycle, but a profound reflection of the interconnectedness of life, a microcosm of the Egyptian worldview. Through the name Jehuti, we see how hieroglyphs function as more than individual symbols. They form relationships, sequences, and cycles that encode universal truths. The principles revealed in Jehuti extend to the entire hieroglyphic system. This method, designed to express timeless truths, rests on 3 interconnected principles. Recognizable symbols. Every hieroglyph is rooted in the tangible world, depicting objects, animals, or actions that anyone could recognize. The ibis is an ibis, the bread is bread. This representational quality ensures accessibility. Yet the Egyptians did not assign rigid meanings to these symbols. Like objects in the real world, their significance shifts depending on their relationships. Bread might signify food, stability, or offering depending on the triad in which it appears. This flexibility allows the same symbols to express a vast range of ideas. Meaning from relationships. The Egyptians understood that meaning arises from connections. Just as the Nile nourishes the fields and the sun sustains life, hieroglyphs derive their significance from the way they interact. In Jehuti, the ibis interacts with the quail chick to convey guidance and provision. The bread links the chick to the reeds, transforming dependency into growth. Each glyph participates in a web of meaning that reflects the natural and human worlds. This relational grammar is the cornerstone of hieroglyphic writing. It allows simple symbols to express complex ideas by emphasizing the interdependence of life. Triadic structure. The Egyptians recognized the power of 3. Triads are found throughout their culture, in cycles of creation, preservation, and transformation, in the phases of life, in the balance of the cosmos. In their writing, triads become the foundational unit of meaning. Each triad presents a mini-narrative. The first glyph establishes context, the second introduces interaction or transformation, the third completes the sequence, revealing the result. Longer strings of hieroglyphs are composed of overlapping triads, where one glyph belongs to multiple sequences. This creates layers of meaning, allowing hieroglyphs to communicate narratives, principles, and truths in a compact and elegant form. In the name Jehuti, we see the elegance of the hieroglyphic method, a system grounded in tangible symbols, enriched by relational meaning, and structured through triads. This system wasn't designed for a privileged few. It was designed for anyone willing to observe and understand the relationships it encodes. What makes this method remarkable is its timelessness. The natural principles it reflects, growth, provision, and interdependence, are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Hieroglyphs are not relics of a lost language. They are a living testament to the Egyptians' vision of a writing system that speaks across time. Thoth's gift enables us to explore how this method reveals meaning in other hieroglyphic sequences. We honor the wisdom of Thoth, who left us the key to his system in the simplicity of his name. With the name Jehuti as our key, the basic structure of the hieroglyphic system emerges clearly. Meaning arises from relationships between glyphs arranged in overlapping triads. This insight provides a powerful starting point for interpreting hieroglyphs. Yet, as we begin to explore the system further, a number of additional features quickly reveal themselves as significant within this framework. These features highlight the sophistication and flexibility of the system, but understanding their precise mechanisms will require further exploration and application. What we present here are opportunities, open doors for anyone willing to engage with this method, interpret hieroglyphs, and contribute to a deeper understanding of the system. Recognizable symbols and universal relationships. Exploration of the hieroglyphic system begins with its components, glyphs that are rooted in the tangible world. Birds, plants, tools, and actions form the vocabulary of hieroglyphs, ensuring that the symbols are accessible to anyone familiar with life's fundamental elements. But these symbols do not have fixed meanings. Instead, their significance shifts depending on their relationships. An ibis might represent wisdom in one context, Thoth in another, or even divine order in a third. An object's role in a triad is not arbitrary but guided by natural universal principles of coexistence, reinforcement, and causation, as well as more complex nonlinear and interdependent relationships. Exploring how these relationships unfold across different triads and contexts offers a fertile area for discovery of contextual interpretations for glyphs. By applying this method, interpreters can uncover how the Egyptians used simple, recognizable symbols to express the profound. Spatial organization and logical flow. One of the most striking features of hieroglyphic writing is its spatial arrangement. Unlike modern scripts, which move linearly, hieroglyphs are often arranged in visually balanced grids, columns, or rows. These spatial layouts are not merely decorative, they serve as a guide to the relational logic of the system. For example, hieroglyphs placed in vertical columns may emphasize sequential progression, where triads unfold in a stepwise narrative. Horizontal arrangements might prioritize interdependence, with glyphs interacting across multiple triads. Even the orientation of individual glyphs, whether they face left or right, can signal the direction of interpretation or the focus of a relationship. These spatial dynamics suggest that hieroglyphs were designed to be read not only with the mind, but also with the eye, engaging both logical and intuitive faculties. Understanding how these arrangements influence meaning is a promising avenue for study, one that invites interpreters to look closely at the design of hieroglyphic texts. Cartouches and conceptual integration. The use of cartouches, oval enclosures surrounding specific sets of glyphs, offers another intriguing feature of the hieroglyphic system. Most famously used for royal names, cartouches appear to serve two primary purposes: to signal that the enclosed glyphs should be interpreted as a unified concept, to set these concepts apart from the surrounding glyphs, giving them prominence while still allowing interaction with broader relational networks. For example, a cartouche enclosing the name Jehuti marks it as a single emergent idea, while the individual glyphs within continue to encode relational meaning. This feature provides clarity without sacrificing complexity, ensuring that hieroglyphs remain both adaptable and precise. The role of cartouches offers fertile ground for further exploration. How do they influence the interpretation of hieroglyphic texts? What other types of concepts beyond names were emphasized in this way? These questions invite interpreters to investigate the boundaries between individual meaning and collective significance. Triadic structure and overlapping patterns. The triadic logic revealed in Jehuti is central to the hieroglyphic system, but its application goes far beyond this single example. In that hieroglyphic sequence, triads are not isolated units. Instead, they overlap, with the middle glyph of one triad becoming the starting point of the next. This creates a cascading structure where each glyph participates in multiple relationships, allowing meaning to flow seamlessly from one triad to the next. This pattern of overlap reflects the Egyptians' understanding of interconnectedness, where no idea, action, or concept exists in isolation. By designing their writing in this way, the Egyptians wove hieroglyphs into a tapestry of relationships, enabling the system to express layered meanings that unfold as the reader engages with the text. But could there be other valid ways to interpret triads in hieroglyphic sequences? Might certain texts, arrangements, or contexts reveal alternate patterns of overlap, guiding interpreters to deeper truths? Focusing on a straightforward, progressive flow of overlapping triads might highlight narratives of cause and effect or sequential logic. Identifying recurring triads or glyphs within a longer sequence could emphasize natural cycles, themes of renewal, or principles of balance and recurrence. Considering the spatial arrangement of glyphs, clusters, symmetry, or vertical alignment might reveal hidden hierarchies, complementary ideas, or relational harmony. This possibility of multiple valid approaches transforms hieroglyphic interpretation into a dynamic process. A single glyph might serve as a pivot point, bridging ideas of provision in one triad with growth in another. Repeated glyphs might function as thematic anchors, drawing attention to a central concept across a larger structure. The flexibility of triadic structure allows for an ever-expanding horizon of discovery. It mirrors the richness of the natural world, where relationships and interactions are multifaceted, layered, and open to interpretation. Ancient sages and seekers devoted lifetimes to exploring these patterns, uncovering wisdom encoded not just in the symbols themselves, but in the many ways they interact. This path is once again open. Ultimately, the overlapping triads of hieroglyphic writing are not merely a method of encoding meaning. They are a reflection of life's interconnectedness and complexity. By engaging with these patterns and considering the possibility of alternate parsing methods, we can unlock deeper layers of insight and carry forward the Egyptians' timeless vision of a system built to endure. What makes the hieroglyphic system so extraordinary is that it is as much a puzzle as it is a language. Its features, the universality of its symbols, the elegance of its spatial organization, the integrative role of cartouches, and the complexity of its triadic structure offer countless opportunities for exploration. This system was designed to endure, and it invites anyone, not just scholars, to engage with its logic. By observing relationships, interpreting triads, and examining patterns, we can begin to unlock the layers of meaning encoded in hieroglyphic texts. There is much we still don't know. How do specific alignments influence interpretation? What do variations in spatial design signify? How might cartouches highlight themes or ideas beyond names? These are questions that anyone can investigate using the framework revealed in Jehudi as a guide. What we do know is that the Egyptians left us a system of communication that reflects their deep understanding of the natural world, their respect for relationships, and their desire to connect across time. The more we explore, the more we honor their achievement, and the more we learn about the interconnectedness of existence itself. Throughout history, paradigm-shifting advancements have required us to confront our assumptions and let them go. The hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt have long been viewed through the lens of our own writing systems, static symbols, phonetic codes, relics of a language lost to time. But what if we have misunderstood their purpose entirely? The method we have proposed challenges us to see hieroglyphs not as a record of speech, but as a relational universal system of meaning. It invites us to think differently, to consider that the Egyptians designed a language that could transcend literacy, culture, and time itself. Yet this is not a theory that belongs to scholars alone. The Egyptians built a system that is accessible to anyone willing to observe, to question, and to explore. The key lies in relationships, in understanding how symbols interact, how triads encode truth, and how the visible world reveals the invisible connections that bind us all. We stand now at the threshold of a new way of seeing hieroglyphs, not as scripts to translate, but as puzzles to unravel, mysteries to decipher, invitations to discover. This is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning. The answers lie not just in the glyphs themselves, but in how we engage with them, in how we seek, interpret, and contribute to the living knowledge they offer. The Egyptians have left us a gift, a timeless system designed to endure. And it is up to us as seekers to honor their vision by stepping forward, discarding the old assumptions, and embracing the possibility of something new. So will you accept the challenge? Will you look with fresh eyes and uncover what lies hidden in the symbols of the past? You may be surprised what you find.